Welcome back. Now, we know her from being a prominent member of the Democratic Alliance, and Mbali Ntuli has hanged up that cap and launched an NPO named Groundwork Collective. The organization aims to bring South Africans together and combine skills and assets to make a difference in the development of the citizens. For more on what the organization is doing, Mbali joins us now via Zoom from Durban. Thank you so much for your time, Mbali. We do appreciate it. I must say, a great initiative. I've briefly read over your press statement and your plans moving forward. But maybe just tell us what this launch is about and how you plan on changing the minds of young South Africans who are clearly very despondent about the state of our country.
Thanks so much. So obviously we launched the NPC because of so many of the things that I saw while I was in politics that weren't being adequately addressed. And I thought that there was some space for us to be able to get out there and do things. So we have three pillars, the first being food production and sustainability, the second being skills and entrepreneurship. And then, of course, the one that we're discussing today is under our civic education pillar. And for me, I don't think that we can continue to have the conversations in South Africa about how we want to have change if nobody's going to do it on the ground. As it stands, the current political space means that any new entrants to the market or any new ideas have no breathing room because there just aren't that many young people that are on the voters' roll. And so before we have any real discussions about the country, we need to actually make sure that there are people to be able to vote and who are empowered and are active citizens who know what it takes to be part of the democratic process. And I certainly know that political parties aren't going to be falling over themselves to do it. And I think that the IFC definitely needs the kind of help because of the funding that it's received, and also because it's mandated elections. It's not necessarily always about the civic education part. So the IFC does voter education, not civic education. And so what my NPC has decided to do is to launch the exchange campaign. And this is really to galvanize young people, register them to vote, but not only that, then have an element of civic education, which is going to be touch points from now until after the election. That's going to be teaching them basic things that aren't being taught in schools or anywhere else. What is the ward committee? How is the president elected? What are the government structures? What kind of rights do you have if you can't get any kind of help from your particular political party or the municipality? What are the things that are at the tips that you can use as a citizen? So that it's not just about us every 5 years thinking that voting is enough to keep our democracy alive. Everything that happens in between the elections is really what makes democracy and participation in democracy important. And that's what I'm trying to do with this particular campaign and our Groundwork Collective. But we're also trying to make it fun for young people. So we're having them come through, their spot prizes, they also get a chance to win prizes to a major concert that we're going to have on the 22nd of July. And we're really trying to reward them for wanting to participate. And after the election is, after the registration and voting is done, we're also going to be doing election observations. So it's been really great because we also have the IEC on board with us. And we've had a number of different civil society organizations like Future Elect come through and help to design a toolkit that is a module of all of the different things that a young person should know about how their government and country works, and cool bite-sized pieces so that we're not hitting them over the head. So it's animations, it's videos, it's WhatsApp things that are really accessible to them. And so we are really trying to get out to the rest of the country and make sure that this message is spread ahead of 2024.
Certainly, and I know you're saying it's getting people to actually register and understand the importance of voting. But if you just look at our last elections, it's one thing to have people registered, but it's one thing to actually get them to the polls to actually vote. And that's why I mentioned the thing of voter apathy and also being despondent. Maybe just tell us about your program moving forward and how you plan on tackling the young people, because at the end of the day, I would say, as a young person, the power is in our hands. And if we aren't voting and wanting to make a difference in our communities, then what's the point? We can't just keep saying and complaining about no electricity, no water, this and that, but we don't vote. And some of them are saying, well, what's the point? Nothing's going to change. But there is a point, and there can be a change. Maybe just tell us how and what your plan is moving forward to get people to understand that.
Sure. So that's exactly why we have the civic education component about it, because it's not enough just to tell people that it's important to vote or go out and vote, because there's such a disconnect between young people in our country and the politicians and our parliament, for example, and that's been borne out by multiple research that we've done, and that's also been done by other civil society organizations. So it's no longer enough. What we found is that the consumer behavior journey that you have to take this young person on is not just to say register and explain to them why, but the efficacy. Showing a person why their vote actually matters is the key to making sure that they are able to actually go out. And if you can do that, there's actually an 85% chance that a first-time registry will go out and vote. And so that's why we're saying we're not just going to touch people once or speak to people once. We're going to be doing it throughout the entire 10 months that we have left between now and the election. And that's why we also have influencers so that they are able to talk to their fans and have the kind of reach that we can't have. We have some really exciting artists that are going to be out there talking to young people and really drawing them in. But more importantly, I think if somebody doesn't know how else to protest or how else to get their voice heard or their grievances heard, of course they're going to check out of the system. And that's why we're saying we want them to check back into it by making sure that they understand what it is that they can do. Does somebody know that they can go to a public participation and petitions committee and sit there and actually get their MPs to listen to them for once? Do people know that they can call them back for report back meetings in their constituencies? And all of these things are legislated and they're in the law, they're in Structures Act, but obviously not everyone has the time to be able to do that. And that's why we've taken it upon ourselves to make sure that every time we speak to young people, and even after we've spoken to them and they've registered, that we're going to be giving them this information in the form of modules, in the form of different types of ways. And that actually has a proven record of being able to get them out. That's what Obama did. That's what HH did just in our continent in Zambia. That's what Nset Ufot and Stacey Abrams did in the state of Georgia. And they were able to flip it for Biden and the Democratic senators. So this is not something that's rocket science or is new. It's really about making sure that you can get those people out. And we do have a Get Out campaign. And having been someone who was in politics for a long time, I know that the political parties are going to be working on differential turnout. So what we have to do as young people is flood that voters roll and make sure that there's more of us that the political parties have never spoken to and force them to actually speak to us, hear what we have to say, change their policies, change the way that they behave, and that's how you get change. If we all just sit down and think that things are going to change, it's never going to change because nobody just gives that power.
Certainly. Okay, well, I know there are a number of activations, and I encourage you to go and look at the Groundwork Collective Twitter page. Even Mbali Ntuli, I'm sure she's tweeting all about that. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We do appreciate it. That is Mbali Ntuli from the Groundwork Collective. She's the Groundwork Collective founder.